Games with secret weapons this offseason. Could this be the spark St. Louis needs for 2026? We break down the details right now on Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis, a lifetime Cardinals fan. Welcome into Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to our everydayers for continuing to be here for this journey. And for those of you who are brand new to the program, welcome in. We hope you enjoy the content. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Today, I will not be alone. In fact, I've got our man, Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com joining us from his humble abode in Kansas City, where he works tirelessly. And today he carved out some time to join us here today. Hey, how was your holiday, Thomas? How much bird did you eat?
It was great. I had a nice mix of ham and turkey. Went to my in-laws' house down in Southwest Missouri. We had some good food. It's something about that rural cooking. It might be the butter that they use, I think, but it tastes really good every time.
Yeah, dude, fantastic stuff. I had a couple of heaping plates myself. Got to get back to the diet, though. Got to get back to the diet and back to the grind, if you will, as we start talking about the offseason for the St. Louis Cardinals. On today's show, we're going to talk all things Cardinals. Possible Ollie extension has been brought up. We've got to talk about the starting rotation following the Sonny Gray trade. But we're going to start with a couple of guys that are doing some things a little bit differently this offseason to prepare for 2026, specifically Jordan Walker and Cardinals minor league pitcher of the year, Brycen Mautz, because these are guys, specifically Walker, that we expect to be a huge part of what the Cardinals are going to be doing in 2026. And depending on how Walker does this year, whether or not he's with this organization moving forward after the year, Brycen Mautz obviously has a very bright future. People are excited about him after his big year at Springfield this year. He's going to be making that step up, likely to Memphis and beyond. We might see him in St. Louis at some point in 2026. It's debatable on when that should happen, but let's get some background as to, because back in the old days, Thomas, you just show up for spring training, and that's when you got back in shape, and that's when you'd be ready for opening day. They would show up, and they'd be all a little fat and overweight, and then they would have to shed all that, get back in game shape, and that's what they would do. That's not the deal anymore. Everybody's working tirelessly throughout the offseason. They take a week or two off to get their mind and their body some rest, and then they get right back to it. And for these younger guys, they're finding different ways to go about working on their craft, whether it is the pitching side, whether it is their swing. And Jordan Walker and Brycen Mautz are two of those guys that have been talked about recently that are doing some things a little differently this offseason. What can you tell us about each one of their situations?
I know a little bit more about Brycen Mautz's situation. He went to a place called Tread Athletics. It's just off-season performance facility. They've got pitching, hitting help. They work with pros, college, minor league guys, whatever it is. I actually spoke with Paul Hall, who has been working with Brycen. He said he's been working with him for about a year and a half now. And the idea there was just to get Brycen more ready for the season. He was trying to get his pitches a little bit sharper, get a little bit more velocity on some of his pitches as well. And it seemed to do a lot for him last year. He went from a 5.18 ERA in 2024 to a sub-3 ERA last year. He's continuing that work at Tread this winter as well, and he's not taking any steps back.
Which is great news, because the one thing that we've learned about Chaim Bloom's vision for this team and this organization moving forward is they got to get better at developing starting pitching, just pitching in general. Don't even have to be starters, really, but just developing, getting their hands on as many possible arms as they can. And to have somebody on the inside already, we've got some big names. Liam Doyle, obviously, is a big name. I don't know how many people were talking about Brycen Mautz before what he did this past season at Springfield. I don't know if he was on anybody's radar, really. And here we are now. He's your reigning minor league pitcher of the year, along with J.J. Weatherholt as your minor league player of the year. And, now we're talking about him. Hey, is this somebody that, I don't know, we might need to use him in 2026 as a starting pitcher if they don't add any depth?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. It's quite a jump. He turned 24 in July, so he's a little bit older as far as prospects go. It's definitely possible. I think I'd like to see what he does in the first 5 months in Memphis, 4 or 5 months in Memphis. If he can continue this strikeout trend, if he can continue that run prevention, I think it could see his name being called by the end of the year, especially if we sign some like 1-year Dustin May pitchers, then we trade them off at the deadline because they're doing well. I think he might be one of the first guys up at that point too.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to it. But again, no pressure really this year. It's not like, okay, dude, we kind of need you now. No, that's not really the situation at all. He will definitely start at Memphis. There's no reason why to keep him down at Double-A for another year. So he'll be up in Memphis, which Memphis might have a pretty nasty starting rotation if everybody's healthy. Just thinking about some of the prospects and where they are lining up as far as their time frame of, just kind of graduating to different levels. That could be a nasty team down in Memphis, and hopefully it all works out for them. On the other side, Jordan Walker. We know the story with Jordan. Top prospect, first-round pick, all the talent in the world, came up, great start to his career, got sent back down to work on some things. He wanted more lift, in his swing. And, that rookie year, the numbers look like, all right, this guy's on the path to becoming something really, really special for this team. And things have cratered ever since. It is just never come together for him. And Derek Gould at STLtoday.com kind of gave us a behind-the-scenes look at some of the things Jordan Walker has been working on in this offseason to prepare for what Chaim Bloom has called. This is a big year for him because is this his 4th year that he's actually going to be in the major leagues? Like, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, this would be his 4th. 23. He came up as a rookie.
Crazy. Yeah. Like, it seems like it's only been like his 2nd, but no, he's been up. There's just been, the injuries last year, demotions, and then he had that rookie year. So this is going to be his 4th year trying to do something in the big leagues. Like, the leash is getting shorter and shorter on Jordan. And as much as we all like him and we want him to succeed, eventually you got to cut ties with people and move on in life if it's not working out. And Jordan Walker is doing something as well this offseason that apparently is working pretty well for him.
A video surfaced of him back in early October. He was working down at Driveline, similar to Tread. It's a facility they work with thousands of athletes throughout the year. And he was in the batting cages getting some good hits in. This was brought up by his agency, according to Derek Gould. CAA wanted him to get some work in, so they did meal prep, nutrition plans, cage work for him with Driveline as well, and then at Cressy Sports Performance. He's back in Atlanta now, I believe, and he's continuing those prep plans. But his offseason started really early, pretty much 2 weeks after the Cardinals ended. He was in with Driveline getting some work in the cages, trying the idea is getting his hip to stay where it needs to be longer. He was dropping his hip a little bit early in his swing, and that caused him to sacrifice some of the launch angle that he used so often.
Yeah, and one of the things that he says in the article was about, I'm trying to figure out the pitchers, which is hard enough as it is, but then I'm kind of fighting my own body to get to those pitches. And we've seen him flail away at pitches, low and away, sweeper. Everybody threw it there, and then they would bust him in, and he couldn't get his hands and his hips around in time because he's looking away the whole time. And it just was a mess, and it was just over and over and over. It was like he was in a horrible time loop of something, and it just kept happening to him. And it's been a rough go. And the faith in Jordan Walker has obviously waned with a lot of the fan base. Like they're like, dude, he's just not it. I'm not there to say that yet. He's still a very young man. What are you, 23? Is that where we're at? It might be just 22. But
23, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, he's so young still. And how much of the blame goes on how the Cardinals handled him in the beginning of his career and how, it was up and down and they didn't know what they wanted him to do here. And, he's learning the outfield, but hey, figure it out at the major league level. Oh, and don't worry about looking like an idiot out there because you've never done this before. Like, there was so much going in on this kid's mind that, I don't blame him for having his wires all crossed up a little bit. But, now's the time. Because if there's one thing the Cardinals could really, really use in that outfield is a right-handed bat with some pop. And at this moment, you got them talking about trading guys like Lars Nootbaar, which I don't know who would want him coming off double heel surgery. Like, what? Who wants that? And then, of course, Donovan, which you can, put him into the outfield stuff if you want to. We know he's normally an infielder, but you could also put him in the outfield. But again, left-handed, Victor Scott, left-handed. All right, we need somebody from the other side of the plate, and Jordan Walker is that guy right now. He's the only guy right now. There isn't any right-handers that are on the verge of coming up or anything that can help out. So if they sign somebody to be on the bench from the right-handed side that can play the outfield, maybe that's something that they could look into. But they're kind of banking on Jordan Walker being that guy. And if he has another bad year, man, I don't see how the team can stick with him.
No, I don't either. I mean, you've got Josh Baez, but he just hit Double-A. He's not
Right.
ready for the majors. He's just now showing what he can do. Let him prove it in Memphis again and then talk. We need Jordan Walker to be better than he has been. Heart of the order. He doesn't even need to hit fourth. Like, put him fifth, sixth, near the bottom, let him ramp up a little bit. But just to get that power stroke that he was known for back. He's got the exit velocity. I mean, he's top 10 in top exit velocities of the year, but he just cannot get the ball in the air. He cannot hit spots. He cannot avoid those breaking balls down and away.
Yeah, and I always want him, and it's easier said than done, is like, you're a huge man, Jordan. Who are some other huge men in baseball that you can kind of pattern yourself after? There's a guy in New York by the name of Aaron Judge who is the same size as far as like the height and everything. What has he done? It's a pretty good guy to kind of look at to see how does he avoid chasing those kind of pitches? How does he lay off those kind of pitches? How does he reach the inside part of the plate? If he's got a very open stance, Jordan had that open stance for a while, but he wasn't able to get his body properly where it needed to be to reach any of those outside pitches and drive them the other way, the way that Aaron Judge does. And again, not everybody's going to be Aaron Judge. He's, what a talent, right? But if you're going to follow somebody's footsteps and look at them that can compare size-wise, I feel like, somebody like him is somebody you should look at. Maybe even Giancarlo Stanton, who has altered his stance a lot over the years. Now he's got that super closed stance that he uses, but it wasn't always that way when he was down in Miami. So I don't know, just some thoughts, but I'm sure I'm not, breaking the seal on any thing that they haven't talked about before, but there are guys his size that have been able to do it in the past. And, hopefully Jordan can figure it out this year. All right, we're going to talk about more pitching. Pitching, very important in the sport. Cardinals dealt away their number one last week. We'll get Thomas's thoughts on that deal and dissect this very young rotation coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything just feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. Now, you're not just watching the game anymore. You're actually reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. I was enjoying quite a few of those moments on Thanksgiving when my Green Bay Packers were taking down the Detroit Lions. Sweep! That was fun to watch. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. It really is. A receiver gets hot, like Dontavian Wicks did for Green Bay. Defense tightens up or the momentum flips after a turnover, and FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines, they adjust instantly. You got player prop updates as the guys heat up. Things change and alter. You can bet next touchdown scores. You can do drive results. It's incredible how quick it all changes, just like the game that you're watching on TV. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you enjoy daily Cardinals content, you can follow the podcast on X at @LO_Cardinals. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com joining us here today. Sonny Gray got traded last week. I don't know if you got that memo, Thomas, that came across, but Gray got moved. First of what we assume will be multiple deals this offseason. In return, they were able to land right-hander Richard Fitts and left-handed prospect Brandon Clark. They also sent $20 million to help with Sonny's salary to Boston as part of the deal. Haven't had a chance to really talk to you about this deal yet. What were your thoughts when it all went down and you found out all the different details about it with the money and who came back? Did you dislike the trade? What were your thoughts?
I don't love seeing us trade away our best pitcher. It's a sign that we're not looking to fully contend this year. So from a fan perspective, I don't love that. Yeah. But from a return perspective and a future outlook, I think it's pretty impressive. I like that the ownership was willing to send $20 million over with him to get better prospects. I think Richard Fitts would be a very nice back-end starter for us for this year and the next few years after that. I like the Brandon Clark idea. I've seen a lot of talk about reliever potential, but if we can add a third pitch to his mix, I think the new pitching development group that we have has already done wonders. If they can continue that work with Clark, I have high expectations for him. I don't love the fact that we're not fully going in for the next few years. I love a team that can win 90-plus games and get a division title, but I get why they're doing it, and I'm happy with the return.
Yeah, I talked about in yesterday's episode, when you put what they just received for Sonny, and then you put together what they got in return at the trade deadline for Helsley and Mautz and Steven Mautz. Not a bad little haul for, 3 guys that were on expiring contracts and, a 36-year-old veteran pitcher who, he's been good, but it wasn't quite to the level maybe that a lot of the fan base wanted, but also is going to make a crap load of money coming up here where you were going to pay him $35 million, probably $40 million, because you were going to buy out that final year. You were probably not going to pay that and sign him again. So that was $40 million. So you slice that in half, you save $20 million, and now you can put that towards something else, another need, perhaps signing 1 or 2 more pitchers on one-year deals. You mentioned a guy like a Dustin May, but there's a ton of other ones out there. So I feel like the last few deals, sure, there's a lot of risk involved because these are all prospects, and we don't know if any of them are going to work out. That's just part of the gamble that you take when you trade guys away for prospects. But on the surface, to be able to get what you received, 2 of the guys you got back are top 10 prospects in your system now, according to MLB Pipeline. Now you got 5 of them in your top 30. I feel like that's a pretty good job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Heimblum did a good job on this. He had no previous connection with either of these people. I know he was with the Red Sox, but Fitz came over after he left, and Clark was drafted after he left. But clearly our scouting department did some hard work on them. I think the talks with Arenado last winter opened up a little bit of these conversations, or at least some familiarity we had. Sure. And that's just good work on Heimblum. You get a high-end velocity left-handed pitcher, and then you get a reliable back-end starter. You can't really ask for much more from a guy who's being owed $40 million next year on an expiring contract in Gray, and who's about to be 36.
Yeah, and these aren't like kids. These aren't like 18-year-old, 19-year-old guys. Yeah. You got Fitz, who's going to be, part of the rotation right away, we assume. And Clark's 22. So it's not like, he's like 5 years away from being something that you can talk about at the major league level. Like if they can get him ironed out, 2 years would be a nice timeline to see him impact the major league roster. I wonder if Boston people are tired of the Cardinals doing deals with them. Like, why do we keep sending them all to Heimblum again? What are we doing? Let's talk about this rotation real quick, though. Very young. We mentioned Richard Fitts, who just came over. Before last year, he was their 12th rated prospect. So it's not like this is some rando dude that they got. This is a guy that's got legit talent. He's got a lot of different pitches that, different shapes and looks. Those are the words that they like to use. So I'm excited to see what he can do. But you put Fitz with Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy, Kyle Leahy, and Andre Palante as your top 5 starters at this moment. I'm putting Palante in there. I want to see him in the bullpen. So do you. But I'm not giving up on him. I'm not cutting him, releasing. That's not going to happen. I still think there's plenty of arm talent there. They just got to fix him and figure him out a little bit. But it's a very, very young rotation. Leahy transitioning to starter for the first time in his major league career. What is your feelings towards, like, let's just pretend that's all they do. They just sit. They're like, okay, here's our 5. How would you feel about that coming into the season?
I don't love it. I saw something on Twitter the other day where the Cardinals had the second lowest projections for starting pitcher WAR next year, and the only team behind us were the Colorado Rockies, who pitch in a launching pad. So from that perspective, I don't love it. I think that it's going to be a big year for Liberatore. I really hope that he can step up. He's not a number 1 on any other rotation in the league, but I think he could be a very reliable left-handed starting pitcher with decent strikeout numbers, good amount of innings, all that stuff. McGreevy's floor is solid. I like what we saw last year out of him. I think Kyle Leahy could be interesting next year. He's going to be the guy to keep an eye on. Richard fits well at the bottom. I don't want Andre Palante, and I hope that that's the spot that is replaced via trade, either Brendan Donovan or Nolan Gorman. Maybe we can get some sort of controllable starting pitcher, or free agency with Dustin May, Tyler Mahle, someone to take that Andre Palante spot.
Yeah, I feel like it would be shocking for them not to bring in some sort of veteran presence. Like, I feel like that would just be weird to not have that. But at the same time, when we say veteran presence, when we're talking about, I mean, Tyler Mahle's, got a few years on him, but if you bring in Dustin May's like 27, it's not like he's a old man or anything like that. But that's the kind of guy, and we keep bringing up his name because he's somebody who's got an exciting arsenal. And, what's really held him back is injuries. That's really been the problem. But when he's on, he can be super nasty. But it just feels like there's got to be some sort of veteran presence that needs to be brought in just to help these guys along. Like, these guys are all just kids tackling this pitching rotation together in St. Louis. And that's obviously there's a lot of risk there because, how many times did we see a guy like Libby or, Palante or whatever only go 3 or 4 innings, and that's really going to put some strain on the bullpen. And as good as that bullpen has been, and as much as we trust the Cardinals to do well with that moving forward, that's not ideal. So, and also I always want to bring this up too, is that the Cardinals got very lucky with how healthy their rotation was last year. That was not normal that they were able to pull that off. So expect people to go down and to have fatigue and there to be some issues. So you have to have some depth there. You mentioned Brycen Mautz as somebody that you thought, would be a possible call up at some point, maybe in 2026. Who would you think would be like the next guy in the pecking order with the team now that might slide up? So if Palante, say they move him to the bullpen and they bring somebody from AAA, who's that next guy you think makes sense?
I would say it's Quinn Matthews. He has the year under his belt at AAA. He's probably the guy. Tink Hence, maybe, depending on if he's healthy, but I'm leaning more towards reliever with him. I think Eshawn Henderson needs a little bit more time in the minors, but he could be a guy to keep an eye on. But probably Quinn Matthews would be the 6th or 7th guy up whoever's.
Okay. All right. But again, very young. And I think we both agree that they could use somebody with some years already in the major league to kind of help these guys through I'm not saying Kyle Gibson old, like I'm not saying 37, 38-year-old people like that, but somebody with a little longevity in the major league game already would be nice. There was talk about a possible Ollie Marmol extension over the week. So we're going to jump into that. We're going to get Thomas' thoughts on that. Is that the right move? Smart to get ahead of it, or dumb to make a decision already? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Cardinals. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, you guys, but let's be honest, getting tickets to something like that, usually the hardest part right? That's why Gametime is here. It's why their app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you're able to track price drops in real time. I get the alerts all the time on my favorite teams. They're like, all right, prices are dropping. And it always makes me, okay, let's see what we got here. You get alerts when great seats open up, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It just puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app. The layout makes it very, very simple to scroll through matchups and compare the seat views. You get a look at where your seat is so you can tell exactly what the angles are going to be. It lets you pan around and move around and check it out. Prices includes the fees up front, which I love. No last second surprises at checkout. And again, alerts for teams and matches that makes it easy to grab the tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out on it. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast where there is no offseason. Sully keeps you up to date on the contract negotiations, the rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed MLB fan. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thomas Govain from RedbirdRanch.com joining us here. So, Ollie Marmol, there was a story from Derek Gould at STLtoday.com that mentioned that, hey, they've had preliminary talks about possible extension for Ollie Marmol past this year. Contract finishes at the end of the season. Your thoughts on that? Because we already went down this road once where Mo did it because he didn't want, Ollie feeling like a lame duck going into a season where they didn't expect to be all that good. And they're not expected to be all that good this year either. Sure, there could be surprises. Some young guys could escalate and be much better than we thought. Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman could finally pan out. But you see the writing on the wall. Sonny Gray is getting traded. Nato's getting traded. Maybe Brendan Donovan. So the youth is really going to be in charge this year. And more times than not, that leads to more losses than wins. Your thoughts on a possible Ollie extension. Is this the right move or dumb to start talking about this already?
It feels premature, not because I don't think Ollie's a qualified manager, but just because we need to see what he can do with this young core. I don't think he's been given a fair shake the last 2 years. I think that most fans would agree with that. He hasn't been given a rotation that has been dominant since he came in. I know 2022, he had a really good team, and he saw a lot of success there outside the playoffs. I'm fine with his decision-making at this point, especially with the relievers. I think he can defend what he does with sound logic. I wouldn't extend him right now, though. I'd see how the year goes. And he's not going to be judged, in my mind, by wins and losses. He's going to be judged in the growth of the individual players. If we see Jordan Walker, if we see Nolan Gorman make those strides, if Lars Nootbaar comes back and can go back to his 2023 self, I think that's noteworthy. I'd judge him more in the player growth rather than the win and loss record for an extension.
Yes, and I feel like that's kind of why – Heim's been here a couple of years. We keep, the feeling is like he just got here because we haven't seen him. We haven't talked to him very much. And now we're finally getting our hands on him and he's the guy in charge, but he has been there behind the scenes for the last couple seasons. He's gotten to know these guys down through the minor leagues and up through the major leagues. And there's something about the idea that that's even being brought up that tells you that they kind of like what Ollie does, as far as his relationships with players, because the one thing I point out all the time is that even when things were so bad in 2023, that you never heard that Ollie lost the clubhouse or that he was the problem or there was arguments between people. We had the one blow up that people still like to talk about with the Tyler O'Neill situation, where we think everybody learned from that. You gotta remember, Ollie was the youngest manager in baseball, right? Like he's gonna make some mistakes. Every manager does, and he's gonna learn from that. But a lot of the fan base, when I talked about this, was there's people who are just like, no, please don't do this. I'm not spending money until Ollie is gone. But I'm starting to see a shift a little bit and I know that it's a small sample size in the comments section and people who write to me, I get it. But I'm seeing a shift where it was pure anger like a year ago, where they were like, this guy sucks. We hate him. Get him out of town. He's a loser. To now people are starting to jump over a little bit and go, I kind of get it. I kind of understand why you wouldn't make that move right now. So what do you think it is about Ollie that Heim is attracted to as far as keeping him around? Is there something about him that you think is different?
It could be his player development background. He had, when he was first announced as manager, that was kind of his calling card, his relationship with players and his ability to work with young guys. Heim might be interested in that. I think that Heim enjoys the working relationship the two have. I have zero knowledge, so let's not pretend like I've got inside stuff here. But I think that
we're just thinking, thinking out loud together.
I wouldn't be surprised if the two have a good working relationship with each other. They both have similar temperaments, it seems, from the outside. I think that works well together. That, as far as I can tell, that seems to be the most appealing part between Heim and Ollie, though.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. Player development. What are we trying to do here, Cardinal fans? What is the goal right now? What is the biggest focus about this team? Player development. And having a younger manager and not some, guy who's in his 60s or 70s that wants to do things his way and doesn't really adjust to how the game is probably not the answer. Now, people are going to yell, Yachty, Albert, bring them in, whatever. And I brought this up yesterday. I'm like, why has nobody else hired them then? If they're so great, if they're so amazing and ready to go and should be a manager of a Major League Baseball team, how come nobody else has jumped on the bandwagon and gotten one of them into their clubhouse already? So something to think about. But I think people are starting to understand that maybe there's more to this and this long-term vision that Heim has. He needs somebody that is cool with that ride. And if people who would want to interview for the job and are like, but we got to go do this to win now. And that's not the vision at the moment. So he needs somebody that's going to sit shotgun with him and be able to be patient that way. I hate that word. Obviously it's a Mo trigger word, but it's somebody that has to be able to do that and be able to relate to these younger guys and understand what it's going to take to get everybody on the same page and to the same level at the same time to really get the Cardinals back to where we want them to be. So I understand it. I'm with you. I agree. I'm like, let's give him let him finish out his contract this year, because who's banging down the door looking for Ollie Marmol and steal him away from the Cardinals? Probably not a lot of people. So why not? Why not let him finish it out? And if he kicks butt in the role this year, and again, not by wins and losses, but just is it all starting to come together? Or are we moving into the proper direction together? If it all is working, then it'll be like, all right, here's 3 more years. You're our guy to lead us with all of these guys. They all seem to love you, trust you. Everybody's getting along. Let's put it in pen and paper and get it together. But if things go sideways, you're not stuck, right?
Yep.
You don't have to. You're not handcuffed by like these no trade clauses that have been such a pain in the ass the last 2 years. Like
no trade clause for a manager. That'd be funny. Yeah, Ollie gets like, 3 years, $15 million, and no trade clause. Why not?
Yeah, you're not stuck. You're not feel like you just have to ride it out with them. You make a real decision together at the end of the season. So I agree. I think it's a little premature. I would do it our way first, and I feel like Ollie would be on board for that. Be like, yeah, I would love to do it that way. As long as you don't have somebody that's already in the chamber ready to go to take his job, which felt like that was going to be the situation with Yachty on board, but because that doesn't appear to be what the case is going to be this year, that's not really a thing. Nobody's threatening him for his job. We just want you to do a great job. So we'll see how it all pans out. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us here today. Anything new that you're coming up with at redbirdrants.com that you want the folks to know about?
I'm finishing that story on Brycen Mautz. I've spoken with the guy from Tread who worked with him one-on-one. I've got that story coming up in the next few days. And then I wrote one about the greatest winter meetings moves the Cardinals have made in their history. That should go up next week once the meetings start. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. I love going back and checking out the old stuff and just ripping everybody.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
It's fun. Hopefully there's some good ones.
I did the good moves. I only did the good moves, the positive ones. I stayed away from the bad ones.
Were there a lot of bad ones during the winter meetings too? I
Not really. I mean,
forget.
If you think JD Drew, like that's in there. If you think the JD Drew trade, I don't know why you would. You get Adam Wainwright, but like if you really like JD Drew, that might be something that sets you off a little bit. But aside from that, most of the moves have been pretty good. They haven't made too many moves, so finding them first of all was tough. but then also they played it safe.
I tell you one thing, I like his first name. He's got a good first name. I actually bumped into JD Drew at a movie theater once, and I knew something was up when he was there by himself, which was weird to me at the time. Like we were at a group of people, we were all at the movie theater together off of Olive Road in St. Louis, and we bumped in, and there he was, and I was like, oh my gosh! I'm like, he's all by himself. That's weird. That's weird to me. It was like on a Friday night too. It wasn't like Tuesday night or something. I was like, oh man, we're screwed. Nobody likes this dude. He's all by himself. We're in trouble. And you see what happened. But he got you Adam Wainwright, so hard to argue about that. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Make sure you're following Thomas at Thomas Govain on X as well, and read on his work at redbirdranch.com. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.